So may I request Dr. Chandrasekharan to talk on standing out the huge skill pool available. Please, sir.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Dr. Dr. Maulik. That's a bit long introduction. I'll work with Anbu later to make it brief. I think I'll try to engage on 20 minutes. I know in one of the recent ICT Academy event only, I was second speaker like this. After the third speaker spoke, I dug myself inside because third speaker said, advising somebody is putting people into a room and smoking out who doesn't enjoy smoke. So I am not going to advise you. Okay, so that's for sure. But I'm going to challenge you. I think that's what I think I should be able to do in this part in, say, 20 minutes of time, which I have, I guess, is what I understand. So the type of challenges which we can look at and how we can face this challenge. Standing out in the huge talent pool is what we are going to look out in terms of the session title. So, but I think here in this hall we have people who are from professional colleges, I guess. Is there anybody outside professional college here? From Arts and Science College or something? Good. Not bad. I think that's really interesting. But still, I think when we are talking of skills, we are moving here, this forum, people who come from niche. Why I say this is, we talk of, we pride how India has got youth dividend being available from 2022. Currently is also we are doing good. So how we are going to have a great advantage in terms of skill, manpower which is going to be available. 18 to 59 years of work population, we are going to have something like 28%. All the data, macro data looks pretty good. But if you go finer into the macro data, it's like, I'm sorry to make this statement, it's like our typical marriages starting high on hopes but surviving on reality, where there is immense challenge because in India space is a constraint, pecuniary earnings is limited, freedom of speech is limited, so many things. So you feel as you get operational, you see how you are crippled. Same way, I think if you see the skill sector, the macro data looks good, but if you drill down the macro data, further challenges come in. 48% of our employers are not able to get skilled people for job. Disturbing. Big challenge. Whereas the global average is 34%. Well, 34, 48, how does it matter? Where should you look at it? I think a country, if you are saying you have youth dividend being favorable, it must be 0, not 48. Okay, that's one part of the data. Let's look at the next part of the data. The second part of the data tells us that out of every 100, only 10% of the people have got avenues to be skilled. Out of that, only 2% go to organized sector and 8% is informal sector. Very disturbing. If you really look at it, it disturbs a lot. Which means you are going to have a large youth population who are not going to be skilled. And the challenge is that we have to create avenues for skilling them. Well, we all know what happened in 2009, why government have put skill development as priority, the policy initiatives which are being taken, etc. But we also know that there is a tremendous shortfall in achieving these targets. How can that happen? So this is the third set of data which you have to look at. Fourth, if you really look at it, north, south, east, western India, southern India has got largest skill training institutions which are being available, not matching with the population. And more interestingly, 75% of that is from private sector. The western comes next, but large comes from the government sector. Private sector is only 30%. The data on north and east is not great exciting to talk about. So I just look at this, where we are currently in southern India, looking at this 75% private initiative. Are we trying to take an edge or lead over, and are we going to really stand out in skill segment? So actually, if you really look at it, the potential people to be skilled and made employable, voluntary people are also not submitting themselves to be trained, which is a major concern which you have to look at it. But I think all those are not going to be an exciting area for you because you are not there. You are there in the niche where about 2 to 3% of the people who are willing to look at graduation as a way to skill themselves and get employed. And there we are going to look at how do you stand out. Okay. I think Mr. Leo spoke nicely about how do you make a difference, how do you stand out there. So I am not going to focus again in the same thing. But again, let's look at this 3% or so. There is a huge opportunity if you really look at it. One set of data puts that NSSO, I think, 8% of the population is in organized sector. There is another, I think, UN data puts it as 34% in organized sector. So we don't need to get worried about that. But there is, even at the lower band if you accept, there is a good scope of people to be getting into organized workforce is pretty clear. And second, the macro data, the global data of 2022 tells us that India is going to be a huge supplier of skilled people to outside world. Even now it's been happening. That's how we have made very strong IT companies in India. So that potential is there. So all of you are in a safe bet. Should you have to necessarily try to stand out? Yes. Because there is also another survey which tells, not only survey, the former ministry, state minister for HRD has himself gone on record in 2012 saying that only 25% of our graduates are employable. That's really worrying. That's really worrying. So my question is that, do you need to stand out or do you need to stand out to use the global opportunity? I think the next part is true. If you have to create a successful and a powerful India, if you have to make the vision of this country moving from emerging nation to developed, the challenge lies is using this youth dividend quotient successfully into service sector where we will see the domestic demand, though it is growing up because of we had fortunate times of 8%, 8.5% GDP growth at all and all for about 10 years, but it's now come down in the last 3 years. But this decade gave us a huge opportunity of service sector growth where skilled people were required. So we have to go back to that kind of growth, which is very important. But even then, the total quantum it can accommodate India, even if you grow at 7 to 8%, is only 25% of this resource which we have to have. Which means we have a challenge of deploying a large force globally. So ladies and gentlemen, when you are looking out, standing out, please don't look at standing out in Indian labor market. Please look at how do you can take people to the global market. That must be your target. Your education, your training, your motivation should be focused on sending people to the global market. Or, like what our IT sector has shown, get jobs in India, the global jobs in India, and try to serve global market. Correct? That's what our BPO guys started doing. They were literally present as a labor force in global market but operating from India. So I think we need to think that way. So how do you do is what is important. If we have to go global in terms of our resources positioning, what are that we need to do? Is a question. I think if I look at the skill sector, if I look at a college education, who are the stakeholders? Gentlemen, I think without anything, if you really look at stakeholders or the promoters of the institutions, the administrators of the institutions, and then there is a tribe called the teachers, students, and parents. Definitely, they work very, very closely in this system. There are outside few more, which we will come to that. Now, in this 5 stakeholders, namely promoters, administrators, students, parents, and teachers, first of all, is there a seamless understanding of what and how we should serve, how we should position our skill? It's a question we should ask. Today, parents admit students based on their hope, their pride, their ego, rather than what the student wants to do. Neighbor's son is employed in Infosys or CTS, my son needs to be there. That seemed to be the trend, at least in the past decade. Now, if you do this, where do we go to the global skilling? Do we understand the student? I think that's something which is very, very important. Nice to hear some stories, success stories among the students and their achievements. I think very few students are encouraged to think independently. Question the dogmas. Come up with something brilliant. How many of us in the ecosystem encourage student to become on his own? We think being a student entrepreneur is difficult. I know entrepreneurial committee cannot be big. But I think we were just talking, in a Cochin college, one of the students for summer project did some app which gave him $330,000. But more importantly, it made virus and everyone in the campus started trying something. I know I am mentoring a company started by 3 Anna University students in social media marketing. And if you really look at it, these guys are just not even sat for placement. Quite different. But I think today we need a tribe of that who can recruit 40, 50 other people, who can think ahead. So I think first parents must change, need to understand and promote individuality in student. Second, the student stakeholders will have to necessarily understand that they own their future. I don't think no company, no government, no institutions can guarantee anyone's future. I think students must completely be taught in school and colleges to make them understand the future. Very unfortunately today in education, they don't even own one course, 3-credit course. They try to see what easily available through Google search, how many presentations he can read and still manage a grade or B+. This is how students think. Now, how do you make him to own his future? I think that's a challenge which we need to really put the student into challenge. Please don't look at your track record, as rightly told by Mr. Liu. I don't think you should look at marks, track record, success rates of students as a factor. But I think you have to really look at individuality of students, how he goes out and succeeds. I think that's something which is very, very important. That needs to come in. Now, who can bring this? All the three other stakeholders have got a role in this. Teachers. I like this statement. I think advantage of being a first speaker, but I think I like the statement. Many times people believe teachers are in a job that they didn't have any opportunity in corporate sector. I think everybody knows Tamil. Vakkathavan vadiyaraangiradhu andha kaalathile solittu poidaanga. Adha maatradhu namma kaiyila dhaan irukku. I think we need to change. There are very good teachers. I revere my teachers even today because they have had a great impact in my life. You can't say this with every teacher. I think it's very, very important. Teachers have to see beyond careers. They have to see that they are the transformation agents among students. Somewhere I think the teachers' motivation is also driven by the ecosystem. Recently I was sitting in one of the PhD admissions. This is for the part-time. So one lady came from Western Karnataka for the admission. So I asked her, what is your motive? Very simple, sir, I can't pass the national test. If I have to become permanent, I have to have a PhD. My immediate conclusion is close the interview, give her admission. At least she has got a tremendous clarity that she wants to be a teacher, in spite of all odds. But I think there is a systems gap. Why are we having a net which can only make 8%, 7% of the teachers pass and make teachers look at shortcuts? Why don't we challenge teachers and tell them, please live up. You have to be the transformation agents. I think another controversial statement I would make, not to your liking, but I think I need to make. Teachers are badly paid. Even today, if you see, I am talking at the highest level, even in institutions of excellence. I have some friends who work, couple of friends who work in MIT in US. So they are teacher at MIT and they run their own business. There is no problem in US, but in India it's a big problem. Teachers are wedded to the institution. Because of many other constraints, we are not able to deliver value. I think the ecosystem must give opportunities to teachers to make more money and make them motivated to stay in their profession and transform students. I think only wherever you are able to create, the carving is to deliver value. Carving should not be to make money. Money should follow the value creation. I think we have to create that kind of ecosystem. That's the job of the administrators. If you see as stakeholders of administrators, if you have to create this, probably today we have a great challenge. Correct me, sir, if I am wrong. You are one of the promoters and administrators, successful administrators. But great challenge is there are only very few people like Dr. Maulik. This is a reality. Now, how do you create this ecosystem where good people can come and work along? In fact, I'm glad today, morning time I spent with a very famous college here in Jamal Muhammad College. And when I was interacting in management department, there were 3 principals who are working currently. I said, wow, this is what you can never see in corporate sector. In corporate sector, if you are irrelevant, you must vacate the place. Academics has got that kind of opportunity. People can give up their ego, work and build institutions. Administratives must be institution builders and not transaction-oriented people. You have to see how do you create that. And lastly, the promoters, if you have to create a huge skill or talent pool, the promoters have got larger responsibility. I said 75% of investments is in private sector in South India, etc. Please treat treat investment in education as creation of social capital and not financial capital. It would pay. It will stand off well. I am sure most of you there are through trust because you want to create social capital. I think institutions are judged by the intangible and soft assets they create. Today we have excellence, institutes of excellence doing very well because he himself is an example. I think he had benefited more out of IITs in India. So I think ability, you must be able to say, I am there of 30 years private university, I have got 300 people who have got 40 patents and I have 1,000, 12,000 patents coming out of my ecosystem. Can any private college claim that today? Or a public government institution can claim? That's what we must create. So if you have to stand out, you have to be challenged. Feel challenged. Please don't run after jobs available this year. There may be a recession this year and jobs may crush. But you are going to stay. You are going to stay for centuries. So you have to think beyond the trough of 2-3 years. You cannot just celebrate peaks or you cannot worry at troughs. You are beyond. For which I think you can achieve only if you have ingrained excellence. To quote C.K. Prahalad, believe in giving 100%. Then only you will have 200% result. If you don't give 100%, you will only fail. To achieve excellence, start excellence from you. Whether you are a teacher, whether you are a parent, whether you are a student, say that you will not compromise. You will be judged by your contribution, your deeds. And I wish India competes for the global market and we all in next 10 years, 15 years produce talent through excellence in skill, where people can go to developed nations and work, where entrepreneurs can go to developed world and bring market here, and we truly transform ourselves. And this industry, believe me, the future of India depends on two industries, one or two service area. One is education, second is healthcare. We are going to have more people who are going to live longer. How are we going to take care of the quality of the life? We are going to have more people who need to be educated, who need to be earning. How are we as educated going to provide opportunities is the challenge. Let's all feel challenged. Thanks for listening.